Hello everyone and welcome back to the Grand Chess Tour. These are the finals and it's Maxime Vachier Lagrave with the white piece against Magnus. Carlsen is the third game of the blitz. First game ended in a draw, then the second game was won by MVL, and now Magnus has to bounce back, or if Maxime Vachier Lagrave wins another game in the blitz section, then it's all over, since Magnus will be down 4 points and you only get 2 points for a win in the blitz section. So without further ado, let's check it out and let's see what poison will Magnus dig out to use and throw MVL off off of his game, as now MVL has the white pieces. So e4, sorry about that, by Maxime we have c5, Magnus goes for the Sicilian, knight to f3, d6 and d4. We have c captures, knight to f6, knight to c3 and now bishop to d7. We have bishop to g5, just continuing development. We have e6 and now knight d to b5. With a double attack on the d6 pawn. So here Magnus captures with the bishop, we have bishop captures with check and knight to c6. Queen to f3, developing the queen, preparing the castle queenside, and here bishop to e7, and now e5. So this has all been played before, and here knight to d5 is the move that's always being played, but Magnus goes for d captures on e5, and it is as of move 10 that we have a completely new game. So this is that little bit of poison that Magnus decided to use. We have bishop captures on c6 with check, b captures and queen captures on c6 again with check, king to f8 now, and we have castles, but castles king side. Queen to c8, Magnus offers a queen trade now, where if you trade, you can do this, but it will be somewhat difficult to develop your knight since the c2 pawn is hanging and you kind of don't want to put your rook on a passive square like c1. So here Maxime just goes back, queen to f3, and now rook to b8, putting pressure on the b2 pawn. Rook a to b1, defending, and now h6, attacking the bishop captures, and now g captures, so you can start expanding with f5, and also you can bring the rook over to the g file to be used for attack. Rook f to d1, Maxime brings the rook into the game, and now f5, expanding, now grabbing very nice control of these squares here, and also you're opening up the diagonal for the bishop with queen to e3, attacking the e5 pawn, and queen to c7 just defending. Knight to a4, preparing b3 and c4 if possible, also offering the c2 pawn for the e5 pawn, as the king is still here, so the grabbing of the e5 pawn will come with an attack on the h8 rook. So king to g7 first, b3 now, and here Carlsen says, okay, we'll just capture this c2 pawn here, next we can maybe even capture on a2. He gives up the e5 pawn with check, bishop to f6, and now queen to g3 check, king to h7, so the king is a bit cut off from the g file, but it's not a problem since the rook is coming to g8 either way. We have queen to d3, offering a queen trade, but just rook h to c8, now bringing the rook into the game. And now if you trade, then Magnus already gets a rook on the second rank, will be very dangerous, as the a2 pawn will be under attack. Also this f2 pawn will be under attack if the bishop, for example, comes to c5, or somewhere along this diagonal, it will be hard to defend. So queen to d2, and now rook to c7, preparing rook b to c8 to double up on the c file. g3, eliminating any back rank weaknesses, and now rook b c8 as planned. With a3, and now king to g6, just improving the position of the king. And here Maxime trades with queen captures, rook captures, and now b4, as you no longer have any targets here on a2. We have rook 8 to c4, and not allowing knight to c5 to cut off your rooks. So knight to c5 now, the f2 pawn will come under attack, so knight to d3 will nicely defend it with bishop to d4 with a double attack, but now knight to d3, just defending that f2 pawn. And now rook to a2, finally Magnus goes for the a3 pawn. Rook b to c1, offering a trade, rook captures, and now rook captures on a3. So here Carlsen is up a pawn. We have knight to f4 with check, king to f6, and now comes king to f1. MVL starts bringing the king into the game, but rook a2, cutting off the king from entering the game. Knight to e2, attacking the bishop. Bishop just goes back to b6. And here we have f4. which prevents the black king from entering the game, but also you no longer have this f2 pawn to perhaps shield you from the rook. But again, it's very hard that it will be used as a shield since both the rook and bishop are attacking it. We have rook to b2, now going after this pawn. Rook to c4, defending it, and now king to e7. Now Carlsen brings the king into the game the other way around. We have h4 and king to d6. We have knight to c3. And now comes rook to f2 with check. King to e1 and now rook to f3, attacking the g3 pawn. Knight back to e2, guarding the pawn, but now king to d5, making the white rook move away from the defense of the b4 pawn. Rook to c8 and now rook back to b3, as we have sort of a principle of two weaknesses. White will not be able to defend both of them. King to d2, now comes king to e4 first, going after the g3 pawn as well. Knight to c3 with check, now comes king to f3. And here MVL doesn't really have any good moves. This pawn will fall, then all of these guys will fall, this pawn will fall. So he played rook to h8. He wanted to grab some material along the way, but here Magnus just played bishop to d4, which comes with a double attack. And it was, of course, in this position that Maxime Vachier Lagrave resigned the game. Whatever you do, you either lose the rook, or after the rook moves, you lose the knight. So either way, you can just resign, which MVL did. So by winning this game, Magnus has equalized, and they now go into the fourth game of the Blitz, which if it ends in a draw, then they go into playoffs, or whoever wins the fourth game of the Blitz goes to the finals. And I may have forgotten to mention this, Ding won his match against Levon Aronian, as he won both of the rapid games, and then the first game of the Blitz section was drawn, which was enough for him to win. Now, so Ding is the first finalist. Now he's waiting for his opponent, either MVL or Magnus. So that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. We haven't overanalyzed anything since it's a blitz game. It would be pointless since they're very low on time. So I do hope you enjoyed that as well. I would like to thank Prakash Sekar, Mario Encinosa, and Polak Shlomo for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check two of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, most likely with another game from this very nice event, as we have to see who will face Ding in the finals. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.